Okay, so welcome, Lynn. Really nice to have you
Hello.
back in the Zoom room.
Good to be back.
Good expression session we had there, which prepares us nicely to have a look at today's teaching. So we'll have a look at our daily quote and related teaching to that. And there's a lesson. And then maybe we have some time for the text as well. It's quite a long text section, so we won't have time for all of that in 2 hours, but let's see how we go.
Okay.
Okay, so let's make my screen a bit bigger. Share my screen with you. Let's close that. Okay. All right, so if you can read the headline quote just to start.
He who has a why to live can bear almost any hell.
Friedrich Nietzsche. He was a German philosopher, philologist. It's quite a mouthful, and composer. But one of the most influential philosophers of the last couple of hundred years. And he was often quoted by Viktor Frankl. So you see how, one mind influences another.
Yeah.
Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who survived 4 years of living in Nazi concentration camps to write the best-selling book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he found the third Viennese school of psychology that he called logotherapy, which postulates that the search for meaning in life is the most important motivational force for human beings. So his theory is much more aligned with high spiritual teachings like Advaita Vedanta and Course in Miracles, because it proposes a higher motivational force than merely desire for pleasure and to avoid pain. That was the basis of Freud's theory. So we're motivated by seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. There's another guy, Austrian psychologist named Alfred Adler, who thought that a power was the chief force motivating human beings. But Frankl, I think because he'd been through such an intense experience, it took him to another level. You survive 4 years in really what can only be described as hell on
Yeah.
earth. I don't think it's much worse, than a Nazi concentration camp. And at any point, you could die. If a guard doesn't like you, they could just kill you, send you to a gas chamber, shoot you. Death was everywhere. So how do you survive in such, really grim conditions and still maintain hope?
Hard.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't imagine how people
some,
survived.
well, he had to go deeper. What kept him going was this understanding. He obviously had studied some of the psychology, so he would have had some higher awareness already. But the understanding that this experience was happening for him to allow him to write this book,
Oh God.
which he probably started formulating before he went in. But he realized that this experience was out of the crucible of this experience was going to come this book, Man's Search for Meaning, which has been, a phenomenal bestseller and inspired millions of people. It sold 16 million copies in 70 odd years. And, really I'd say one of the great books to read. I read it and I was like, everyone should read that book because it really gets to the nitty-gritty of life. It was before I came to the course, but it was really a preparation for this kind of teaching. Because what he's talking about is the crucifixion in the book, and how do you find meaning in this, environment where you're being seemingly crucified, persecuted, everything's really harsh. You know, it's the ego's thought system in absolute overdrive. The Nazis were just like the epitome of, you know, the ego at its
Ego.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ego central at its, you know, its worst possible manifestation, possibly in history, because it was so, you know, calculated. It wasn't just like, well, we're just angry, we're just going to kill a few people. That's happened, you know, repeatedly through human history. It was like, no, we're actually going to organize a system to exterminate an entire race. I mean,
Mm.
who does that? That's just total insanity. So it kind of took, you know, took the ego just to the height of it. And he was in that. He was facing that thought system every day. Apparently that was in charge. You know, this thought system seemed to be dominant. They were threatening to take over the world. It was a very, you know, dark time. And yet somehow you got to find some transcendent meaning in all of that. So, you know, really we can learn from people like Viktor Frankl, go, well, my challenges compared to his are very minor.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
entire family was killed, right? His parents, his brothers, sisters, his wife, killed. That's it. You know, you're never going to see them again. He presumably wouldn't have even known if they were dead or alive because they got split up and they got taken to different camps. So, you know, this uncertainty of are they okay? And the likelihood is they're probably dead because that's, you know, that's the probability, and most people did die.
It
How do
is.
you deal with that and still carry on? Well, what's the lesson we can learn from his experience and the theory that came out of the crucible of that experience? The lesson is that perceiving your suffering correctly will empower you to transcend it and forge a life of meaning and fulfillment through service to others. I'll say that again. Perceiving your suffering correctly will empower you to transcend it and forge a life of meaning and fulfillment through service to others. That's your higher purpose. That's what it's happening for.
Yeah.
No matter what the apparent suffering is, that's the purpose. And people like Viktor Frankl, Yeshua himself, is, you know, he suffered in the crucifixion, although it was only, you know, for a day or two, but it was huge suffering, you know, very intense. They are giving us lessons for our own lives. Say, well, whatever you're dealing with, it's probably not going to be as intense as that. So if they can do it, then you can do it. It's always possible, no matter what the apparent severity of the challenges. So on the flip side of that idea of finding meaning through service, what Frankl observed in his time in the camps was that the men in the same camps as him who could find no transcendent meaning in their experience died in just a few months because they perceived their suffering incorrectly.
Yeah.
So perceiving
They
your
don't see the
suffering
hope.
incorrectly,
Yeah.
yeah, they just lost hope. He said they'd come
Mm.
in and they were, you know, in good shape. They were fit, strong, healthy, you know, in their prime. And then he just watched them fade away, and within 6 months they were dead because they lost all hope. It was like, this is so terrible. There's no reason to continue on unless you find something transcendent that transcends what's happening then and there in the physical, which means you've got to go deeper and you've got to find that meaning in your own mind. You're not going to find it in the external anymore. But if you're used to looking externally for some kind of satisfaction, gratification, and you can't make that journey within, then you're going to lose hope, aren't you? Because the external is just hellish.
Yeah.
And you're just going to go, well, it's easier just to die than to persevere through this, because what's the point of all this suffering? On the level of form, there is no point. It's just horrendous hell, suffering. Unless you find a deeper transcendent meaning to that suffering, there's no way of, you know, carrying on. So it's a huge lesson for anyone, because in you know, in everyone's life there is a degree of suffering, and sometimes we have to face quite a lot of that. How do we perceive suffering correctly becomes a key part of our journey and of our learning, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how could this principle work for you in practice? You might well ask. Well, start by looking at your biggest trauma or pain point in life and work on changing your perception of it so you see it as an experience designed to teach you how to help others avoid or transcend their own suffering. And in that is your higher purpose. Your higher purpose is to follow the path that helps you to overcome these weaknesses and heal your pain by letting it go in the quickest way possible for you. And as a result of that, our high purpose in life is often inspired by our most traumatic or difficult experiences. Good example of this is Alcoholics Anonymous. High purpose is often inspired by our most traumatic or difficult experiences. So, good example of this principle in action is how AA was founded. I don't know if you know the story, but I'll tell it briefly. So it's just a great example of, you know, from the ashes of despair, alcoholism, a very destructive habit, as we know, you can destroy people's careers, families, lives. So this guy called Bill Wilson, who was a Wall Street analyst and a recovering alcoholic, there was a failed proxy fight at a hotel, and it just all gone pear-shaped. And, you know, as happens in hotels, there's always a bar, and he was tempted to go in and just have a drink. But he knew, his right mind was like, if you do that, then, you know, one drink is going to lead to many, and you're going to be back, you know, off the wagon, so they call it. And you know, this isn't actually going to help you. So what he did to keep himself sober was go, well, I need to find an alcoholic desperately to go and help and teach what I know about alcoholism. Because he started to formulate this theory that actually alcoholism wasn't just a sin, and it wasn't just like you're weak-willed. You know, these were the interpretations at the time. Actually, it's a disease that you're missing something. Alcoholics are missing something that makes them able to stop. They have one drink, and it's just like they just want more and more, and there's some hormone and things, something's gone wrong in the normal satiety level. Like most people have a drink or two, and they're like, yeah, that's enough. Alcoholics are like, no, that's not enough. They just crave more and more. So this was his theory. He found this guy called Bob Smith, who was an alcoholic surgeon who'd been admitted for alcohol poisoning after another binge of drinking, and spent time talking to him about his theory that alcoholism was a disease rather than a sin or a result of being weak-willed. And he told him how he became sober with the help of a Christian revivalist group to help Bob make the decision to sober up himself. So it was based on, you know, Christian principles. So he was helping himself by helping another, and this act of love for himself and another led to the two-man founding Alcoholics Anonymous, which has now helped millions of alcoholics worldwide to overcome their addiction. So in that moment, in that inspired moment, we said, I'm not going to give in to temptation and go and get drunk. I'm going to go and help another human being. He chose love rather than fear in that moment. Was born Alcoholics Anonymous, which is, you know, then spread love in this particular area of alcoholism and other addictions. Has helped, you know, many more with drug addictions, gambling addictions, and so on. It's the same process because of one inspired moment and a holy instant between two people.
Yeah,
that's how powerful spirit is. In that moment, he listened to the right voice. He made the right choice, and, you know, the rest is history. That choice has rippled out and has helped millions more people. If he'd chosen to get drunk that day, Alcoholics Anonymous may never have been born. Maybe someone else would have done it, but who knows? And, you know, millions of people would have been deprived. So, you know, that's the power of this stuff. In that one moment of listening to spirit, that inspired choice absolutely changed his life, but not just his life, changed millions of people's lives. So a great story, and something, you know, to bear in mind. It's like, well, he was just an ordinary guy dealing with, you know, his own issue at that time, but he chose love, and he chose to be inspired and to listen to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and, you know, look at what has come about as a result. And he, you know, when he did that simple act of love, and he went to the hospital to find Bob Smith, he wouldn't have been thinking, oh, this is going to lead to you know, a huge worldwide organization. None of that. He was just like, in the moment, that's that's what I feel inspired to do. That's going to save me from relapsing. And so there's a fundamental point here, is that you're actually saving yourself. He did it
Yeah, of
for himself,
course. Yeah.
enlightened self-interest. But he was also helping another human being at that time. And that's what your higher purpose is. It's enlightened self-interest. You're saving yourself, but you're also extending that help out to others because they can learn from your inspiration. So helping other alcoholics is one of the steps in the AA's 12-step program to permanent recovery, because as Yeshua teaches in this passage from the introduction to the Manual for Teachers, you want to read that?
The purpose of the course might be said to provide you with a means of choosing what you want to teach on the basis of what you want to learn.
Yeah. What do you want to teach? Because what do you need to learn? So your higher purpose, what do I really need to learn? Well, we all need to learn how to overcome the ego, how to overcome fear, but maybe there's a particular dysfunction that you have. That's what you really need to learn, don't you?
Yeah.
So in his case, Bill Wilson's case, it was, okay, I'm addicted to alcohol, and I'm using alcohol as a way of suppressing, my emotions and dealing with my problems, and it's not helping me. That's really my, key life lesson. So my purpose comes out of that. If I can learn that lesson, and then I can teach other people how to learn that lesson, then there's my true purpose. So I'm now teaching on the basis of what I want to learn. And that's embedded into the 12-step program. The alcoholics, to stay on the wagon, to stay off alcohol, they need to teach. That's what they've established. You need to be teaching this, because the more you teach it, the more you learn it. You
Yeah.
keep teaching other alcoholics and you keep saying to them, no, you've got to stay off this. You've got to stay on the 12-step program. Well, you're teaching yourself every time you do that. And so you're reminding yourself constantly so that, you don't relapse. And, that's, they found that formula very successful, and they won't let anyone else teach the alcoholics. So someone like me, I might understand the principles, but they won't let me teach them, because any alcoholic's going to go, well, you don't know. You have no idea because you've never been an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to go, no, I don't really know. No, I've never had an alcohol problem. I drank a little bit at university and then I gave it up. It didn't work for me. So I just don't drink. So how can I help someone who's like seriously addicted to the stuff? Because I don't understand why they'd
When
want
you,
to,
you haven't been, yeah.
why they'd want to drink until they fall down. It doesn't compute. So that, that's what your higher purpose is. There's something that you've done, some challenge you've overcome that other people are struggling with, that you can help them with. And it's very specific and unique to you and your journey. And they're going to be people with the same thing that you can help. And that becomes your higher purpose. So look to your greatest challenge for that purpose, and then you'll find it. That's what this teaching is saying. And it might be worth reading. We won't do it today because we don't have time. But if you want to read the development of trust, there it is. So there's six sections in this development of trust, which six parts to it.
Yeah.
And the first three are all undoing. It's all about undoing, period of undoing, where you have to see that what you valued before really wasn't valuable at all. I think you've just been through that process, haven't you?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
period of undoing, then there's a period of sorting out. Okay, so what is actually valuable and what's not valuable? You've got to make that decision. How am I going to live my life? And the
Yeah. What do I
learning,
really need?
what do I really need? What do I really
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful.
Yeah.
It's only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded them in this world of illusion. The word value can apply to nothing else. That speaks directly to your awakening journey and to your higher purpose. If you can see that your greatest challenge is actually very helpful, then you've learned something. Then you move on to the next stage, period of relinquishment, where you actually give it up. And you go, okay, Actually, it's really, that old way of life, old attachments. It was not helpful. It's time to let it go, and you really let it go, and you find a sense of happy lightheartedness instead of grief and depression. And then you hit a period of settling down, a quiet time where you you rest a while in just reasonable peace. It's kind of funny because you're just saying, okay, so it's not over yet, but it's reasonable peace. You consolidate your learning, and then you're ready for the next stage, which is
Yeah.
another period of unsettling.
Yeah. That's life.
Yeah, yeah. And the period of unsettling is like the final summit to Everest. It's like, okay, actually, I thought I got this, but I don't really get it, and I'm just really struggling to let go of everything, right? He's saying, now you must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. He must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. So I must learn to suspend all judgment, ask only for what I truly want in every circumstance. So what I truly want is awakening. I want to wake up to who I really am and free my mind. That's what I truly want. So that's all. That's the only purpose to any experience. But to live that way is quite advanced. And just to get it and like, okay, so I'm not reacting egoically, I'm not judging, I'm just dropping all that, and I'm in the peace of God no matter what happens, is then the final stage. Once you've achieved that, it's achievement, and you're living in the enlightened state, in a flow state where whatever doesn't mean that nothing happens and you don't ever get seeming challenges, but in that state, they're not really challenges
Yeah.
because you just flow through them and you go, well, it's all just illusion. I really understand that. And my peace is undisturbable because I'm rooted in the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. So that's a state like a Buddha, a Yeshua attained at the end of their life, which they're saying is achievable. You can do that, but it's a process and it's a journey to get into that state and be able to stay consistently in the state is why you're
Hard
doing
to
the
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
To not
but it is
not
possible.
react.
There,
Yeah.
there are people who have done it. So, Yeshua's saying, well, if I could do it, you can do it. Because I'm nothing superhuman. I just listened to one voice and I learned to listen to that voice and that voice only. And that was my only guide in life. By the time I resurrected, that voice had established itself as me, that there was no ego left. So it is possible to achieve that with mind training. He says it takes effort and great willingness to achieve that. But what else are you going to do with your life
Mm.
than this?
Yeah.
There's nothing else really to accomplish. Everything else is secondary to this spiritual journey, which is the journey of awakening. This is the hero's journey. This is just another version of the hero's journey, which dovetails with it. It's the same journey. Whether you look at it through the lens of the hero's journey, which looks like this, or you look at Yeshua's conception of it, which is the 6 stages. It's the same journey. It's just different perspectives on the same journey. Hero's journey, where are we? Hero's journey. There we go. So that's the hero's journey we talked about earlier, formulated by Joseph Campbell, and then people like George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, then took it and made it into this expanded 12-step process, which interesting is similar to we've just talked about 12 steps in the AA program. So maybe there's a bit of synchronicity there.
Yeah.
And this is the template. This formula is the template for these blockbuster movies we talked about. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, The Matrix, Avatar. and there's others, but those are some of the best. I think they are the best-selling movies. Avatar was the highest grossing movie of all time. I think Star Wars is the second highest in a series, and all these others have just grossed billions, because they tap into the human psyche, because they speak to us about our own hero's journey of awakening, and we resonate with the characters that are going through that on the screen. And the script writers know that. But if they script it according to the hero's journey, it's a formula that resonates with people. If it resonates, then people want to watch the movie, and they also want to then buy the products. It's all the merchandising and stuff that goes along with it. So there's a deeper spiritual underpinning to all of these movies, and that's why they're so popular. Okay, so let's go back here. So already the teaching is that playing a victim of external circumstances projected by your mind is the lowest self-concept you can have, and the height of self-deception, because it denies your true identity as omnipotent and omniscient love. But if you think that you really are a victim of the world and all these things are just happening to you, it's not your fault, it's being done to you, you're being unfairly treated, you are defining yourself as a victim. And you're saying, I didn't do it, the world did it to me. That's very tempting for the ego, because then the ego is like, well, I'm not responsible. It's someone else doing it to me. And so it gets the opportunity to project its guilt onto someone else. But the price of that is huge, because you disempower yourself. And you say, well, actually, I'm not in control of my life. I can't get out of this victim identity because it's being imposed upon me by outside forces, and that's beyond my control. And so essentially, I enslave myself into this very limited victim identity and consciousness, which believes in limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and inevitable death. And that's what I bind myself to when I believe in the victim. When I'm going, oh, this is happening to me and this is terrible and woe is me, then instead of, oh, this is actually happening for me and it's happening to awaken me, I keep myself in the prison of my ego's thought forms. I was in meditation the other day, and I had this sort of image come to me related to this diagram. So I was just letting go of some stuff in this world, and really what came to me was this diagram. If you remember this in the course,
I don't remember that diagram, no.
don't you? Okay.
No, no, I
That's
don't.
it. Well, it's in the course manual, so it's one of the early exercises, exercise 4, just about seeing different perspectives. So you can look at the left one and you can see that in different lights, can't you? There's two
Yeah,
ways of looking
yeah,
at that. It either comes up and out to the right of the page, or it goes in,
yeah.
and you can't see it the same way. But if you blink, you see it switching. So that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. It's perspective. It's really saying, well, the reality you see is based on perception. And there's two ways of seeing it. And you can't see two at the same time. You're going to see one or the other.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
If you close your eyes and then you open them, often it shifts and you go, oh, I just seen the other one, and then you can't see the other perspective, and it
yeah,
can shift. You
yeah.
see as you blink. So that's quite interesting. But what came to me in the meditation was this one. So look at the one to the right. This is called the impossible cube, by the way, because it's actually impossible. The physics of it don't work.
Yeah, because of that leg going down on the, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because but then
It's on the
again,
outside,
you
but
can
the
look at it in
inside.
a different way. You can look at it in a different way, and you can see it doesn't work whichever way you look at it. You can look at it coming out the page, and then that doesn't work. This one is behind this one. So whichever way you look
Yeah,
at it, it doesn't work. And you can
yeah,
you can look at it and you can look at it, you can contemplate it forever, and you would never make that cube work because it's impossible. And so in the meditation, I was like, well, that's the ego's system. That's the ego's thought system. And the walls of this cube, these bars, are like the thought forms of the ego system. So a victim identity, feeling unfairly treated, fear, anger, attack thoughts, and so on, are the bars of this cube, the impossible cube of the ego, which keep you bound up in the system. And you will never make sense of that system as long as you believe in it. You can go round and around and around and try and make sense of it. And we've all done that for our entire lives and many lifetimes before that, trying to make sense of an impossible system that doesn't make sense. So the only way out of that impossible cube is to deny the reality of it. This is what Yeshua's approach is saying. Deny the reality of this entirely, because it will never make sense. And you will never find a way to make that work. So the only way is to actually erase the impossible cube and restore it back to pure formless awareness, which in diagrammatic form would just look like a blank page, just pure white. Then there's no issue. If that was just blank, there would be no impossibility. It would just be clean, smooth, pure, and it wouldn't disturb your peace in any way, would it?
No.
So symbolically, that's what we try to do. We try to drop all of these bars of the impossible cube, which has been constructed in our minds and seems to be quite solid, and one by one just undo them. Go, no, I'll drop that one away, and I'll drop that one away, and I'll stop trying to make the impossible cube work. And I'll restore my mind to what underlies this. Underneath the pixels on the page, the dark is the light. There's actually, the page is still there. It's just obscured in those areas to make up this impossible cube. Well, that's symbolic of our minds and our lives. These thought forms obscure the awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, we call it. It's always there, that underlies all of these thought forms. And our job is to let go of the thought forms, which are the bars of this impossible prison that we've now enslaved ourselves in, trying to make it work. And of course, it never will work. So just drop it all away and let go of the impossible cube. Because it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's never going to work. And you can't figure it out. It's an impossible problem that you'll never solve. What did you say, Lynn?
I just coughed, sorry.
No. Okay. No problem. All right, so let's go back here. We're getting to our lesson. So today's quote and workbook lesson are really a double call by the Holy Spirit to wake up to your true power as a son of God or extension of perfect love. He's saying in today's lesson, let me not forget my function. My function is to awaken, and in the temptation of the world, especially when things aren't going so well, it's very easy to forget that function, and then you try and deal with it on the level of form, but actually it can't be dealt with on the level of form, because that's the impossible idea, impossible cube. So this is why you need to get really clear about your higher purpose, because it's the most effective antidote to the victim identity of your ego. If you follow your higher purpose, you can't believe in the victim anymore. You have to say, well, it's all happening for me, and there's a higher purpose to all these experiences, no matter how much I seem to have suffered. And as a session, actually, a podcast of this live session I did with a guy called Phil, he gave me permission to share it, about how to find your higher purpose, which was interesting, very interesting conversation. So I think that will inspire you. You want to listen to that?
Yeah. Well.
And then I don't know if you finished exercise 9 on page 56 of the course manual, but if you haven't, then there's an opportunity to do that with this. So finish that off. And really, once you get that higher purpose clear, nailed down, that becomes something that every day you remind yourself of. That keeps you on track. It keeps you focused on what's actually important. Why really? Why are you doing it? Why are you doing anything? That's what your higher purpose gives you the why. So there's a bonus meditation on how to find your higher purpose. If you click that link, there it is.
Okay,
so yeah, listen to that if you think you need a bit more inspiration. Read what you've written in exercises 5, 7, and 8 in the course manual. Look for areas of weakness or past pain, make a note of them. And the blueprint for your higher self that you formulated in exercise 8 will also help you to do exercise 9. So those qualities that you established, exercise 8 was finding your higher qualities. These qualities will help you to find your purpose. So it's a it's a progression. If I choose to be loving, kind, truly helpful, generous, then how do I express those qualities in a purpose, a special function or higher purpose that helps me to learn all of those qualities and helps me to learn to let go of any of my trauma and find a way out of that and help others in the process. That becomes your higher purpose. So
Yep.
I think you've found yours, but maybe a little bit of clarification, just look at it again and that this can inspire you. So this is beyond motivation. This speaks to actually the headline of this whole session, which is how do you go beyond motivation? Headline is what is the fundamental source of human motivation? It's this sense of a higher purpose, of meaning that inspires us. So beyond, well, what can I get? Short-term pleasure, avoiding pain. That was Freud's theory of motivation. Or desire for power, Adler's theory, is actually what is truly meaningful. What's truly meaningful is what's going to speak to your spiritual journey, your awakening journey, awakening to who you really are. That's what's truly meaning. True meaning of life is to know thyself, and everything you do should be directed towards that end. When you create a life like that, it's all about knowing yourself, and your higher purpose is directed towards that, then you've tapped into a source of inspiration. This is inspiration rather than motivation. You're not motivated by form outcomes anymore, or I want this and this and this to happen, pleasure or avoiding pain. You're actually inspired by this transcendent purpose of finding your true self and your true meaning. And that's inspiration versus motivation. And inspiration will keep you going in the darkest times, as Viktor Frankl demonstrated. Motivation on a more superficial level won't. That's why those guys who didn't have the inspiration that Viktor Frankl tapped into died, and he didn't, because he was working on inspired energy, which is more powerful than anything the ego can come up with. It's eternal. It transcends everything the ego's ever invented. So it's like high octane fuel. It's rocket fuel versus just the normal stuff you fill up with at your local garage, which will help you. Rocket fuel is needed if you're going to break free of the bounds of gravity and go beyond this world into space. It's the same idea. You need the inspiration, that power to help you to do it. Otherwise, you will falter. The normal motivations of the ego are not big enough to give you that power to completely transcend this world. And while we're on this, why not just read this before we go into our lesson? Do you want to read that poem by Donna Markova?
I like the first one.
Yeah.
That's the one I like every time.
Yeah, read it.
I
Aloud.
will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise, I choose to risk my significance to live so that which came to me as seed. I haven't quite. Where was I? I've lost it.
So there we go.
Seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's speaking to the power of inspiration and purpose. That choose to
I
risk.
can see where I've come out of. I can see, especially in my couple of weeks on, on the island with my
Mm,
family. I can see where I go in and out of that feeling because
mm,
I seem so alien to them.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just so odd compared to them, really.
They
So
don't understand. Yeah.
no, not really. And there's like, that. Oh, don't even want to go into it. Doesn't matter.
Mm,
Just old beliefs and stuff about me.
mm,
I don't want to talk about the subject, but like even the COVID thing still comes up because obviously I'm the only one that doesn't believe in it. Um,
yeah. Mm,
it,
mm.
it comes up, it rears its ugly head every now and again, so I must have something unhealed about that.
Mm, mm.
But yeah, weird.
Well, if you start living your life this way, you're an outlier. Most people don't live this way, sadly.
Mm,
And you start living your life that way, it challenges people because you're saying, well, there's another way to live. There's another way to be. You don't have to be limited by
mm.
your ego and all of these fears and doubts and everything that defines people. It's all rubbish. It's not true. That's not who they are at all.
There was a weird conversation where I suddenly realised they thought I was a little bit insane because
Mm,
there was four of us in a car, and it
mm,
was my mum, my sister, and my sister's friend. And I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it's my mum or my sister said, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you haven't got a pet sitting job?" And I said, I've got loads of backups. I've got friends that have offered me rooms to rent. I've got trusted
mm,
house sitters. I listed these things and they went, "Oh, oh, we've just like worried sick, thinking I didn't have a plan." Like I said, I'm not a stupid person.
mm,
I've,
mm,
I feel
mm,
fine. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of it,
mm, mm.
and I'm not stupid. And it's like, oh dear,
Yeah.
that's a little
Mm,
bit hard actually.
mm, mm.
Mm,
Well, people don't really see you. What they see is their own projection onto you. See, they project their
yeah.
fears onto you. And then they go,
Mm,
well, if I were in your position, this is how I would be reacting. I'd be, in fear. And I'd be like, oh my God, my God, I need to get a stable job and I need to get an income and I need to get a stable place to live. And they project that all onto you and they go, well, how are you coping? Because I wouldn't cope. So really, they're just, they're projecting onto you. It's their own misperception,
yeah.
which you don't have to buy into. It's
No.
just their stuff. You can just say, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. And they will think you're strange because you're overcoming fear and transcending that. And that is not common. Most people live their lives in fear their entire life. And they never do. They never really go on the hero's journey.
No. And they're not happy.
No. Okay.
Doesn't
You
make them
can't you can't
happy.
be happy if you don't find who you are. If you don't find out who you are and you live through a false self, you can't be happy. There's no way. Because your false self will never make you happy because it's not who you are. This is the message. So those who choose to risk their significance, it's a great line, isn't it? I choose to risk my significance.
Yeah. Yeah, that made my heart go when I read that. Oh.
Yeah. The ego's significance, right? I got to risk all of that apparent significance to live. So that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom. And that which
Mm.
came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. So
Keep
I'm giving.
blooming.
In other words, I'm in the abundance. I'm in the flow. She uses the seed analogy. A
Yeah.
seed grows and blossoms, which is can see why you love it because you love nature. So
Yeah.
it's that natural analogy.
Yeah.
Um, And our lives can be that. I mean, think of the examples I've shared today: Viktor Frankl, Friedrich Nietzsche, Yeshua, the Buddha. You know, these people, George Lucas, Joseph Campbell. You know, these are people who chose to risk their significance, and they chose to do something a little bit different with their lives, and to plant a seed that can then germinate and can go to the next person and carry on as blossom, and and carry on. And so they have a legacy. You know, we still talk about them. We still draw inspiration from them, even though some of them have been dead, Buddha, 2,500 years, yet we still talk about it. We still, there was a significant teaching and life, and we can learn lessons from his journey. And so that's where your significance, that's where your true meaning and significance lies. That's your higher purpose. That's, and you look at here, say just his life and Yeshua's life, and take those two spiritual teachers as an example. They went way out of their social construct. They didn't stay, in the normal way of living at that time. I mean, the Buddha had a very cushy life. He, I don't know if you know his story, but he was a prince. His father was like, no, I'm just grooming you to become the king. And he kept him his entire life within the confines of the palace. He never left this palace.
Oh dear.
Never gone into the town, never seen, what life is. And then one night he was like, I gotta get out here. I've got to go and see. He was really curious. So he broke out and he went into the town or the city, and he saw suffering. He saw death, and he saw misery and pain and suffering. There were four things that he saw. And that completely changed him. He's like, I'm living in a fool's paradise here. You realize that. I'm like, I don't actually understand anything. I'm 29 or whatever he was. And he'd had an arranged marriage and a son, and he just chucked it all up and went, I can't do this anymore. And he left. In the middle of the night, just went, I'm escaping because this is a prison. I cannot find my true self here. I will never be happy here. And you imagine how that went down. Where's he gone? He's disappeared. He's taken a duck. His father was probably, distressed, and his wife, or where's he gone? And like on the level of form, that was a disaster. Like he can't do that. He had to stay and play his role as the prince, and then become the king and family. But thank goodness he did it, because that was his awakening. He went for, the highest thing that was calling him. And as a result, he's inspired countless millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people, maybe over the course of 2,500 years.
Yeah.
Because he risked his significance. He had it all, apparently, as a prince. And most people would have gone, well, that would be mad. I've got a cushy life. I don't really have to do anything. I've got servants. I mean, he had the best that life could offer him in that time, and yet he just chucked it all up and went and lived as a wandering beggar, no food, put himself through a lot of hardship to eventually awaken to who he was, so he could then teach that. And we're all the beneficiaries of that profound spiritual journey that he's undertaken. Yeshua, the same. He didn't follow the rules. He was the eldest son. His father had died. So what would have been traditional in Jewish culture he would have become the father of the house. The eldest son, he would have stepped into the father role, and he would have just played that out for the rest of his life and been a solid working class citizen, doing his carpentry, earning a living. And he went, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and become the Messiah. Can you imagine? So, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like all these miracles, and like, come, and he was like, he said, I can't be what you want me to be. And
luckily,
so there was
his mum knew the truth, though.
I think his mum knew he was a special child from the beginning. It's like, okay, this kid is on another planet. He's come from somewhere else. She knew that, but his siblings, they were like, no, like, come, we want you to be the father figure now, and you the elder brother, and do your thing. And he's like, no, sorry, I can't do that. So, there was a split in his family, and it's recorded that the only time he wept in the Bible was because of that. Jesus wept. short, two one of the shortest lines in the Bible,
Mm.
apart from Amen. Jesus wept because like he was sad because there was this, although he was teaching the world love and doing these amazing miracles, his own family there was a schism in it, and he couldn't really resolve that because they wouldn't accept him as he was, that he was actually the Christ and the Messiah, and he had to do that. That was his journey, his spiritual calling. So these people,
Know that he hadn't, sorry,
hmm? Hmm?
I didn't know that he had any siblings.
Yeah,
Didn't
his
know
whole
that.
family. Yeah, there were four, five. He had a brother called James.
Oh, I had no idea. How bizarre.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. So, is it not shown in the Chosen? Interesting.
No, I
They're
don't
not
think
showed.
so.
Yeah,
I've got it. I'll have to watch it all
watched
again.
it. Yeah, no, he definitely had a family, and it's recorded that his family, he was teaching in Nazareth. His family rocks up, and they say, someone says, "Oh, Jesus, your family's here," and he said, "Well, actually, publicly on record, no, they're not really my family. Everyone's my family." Imagine how that
Wow.
went down.
Oh dear.
Because really, what he's denying is the specialness of the whole separate biological family, which is a kind of a pillar of any society, and particularly the Jewish community. Family was everything. This is huge. And he's going, no, actually, you're not my family. Everyone's my family. So
Hmm.
that wouldn't have gone down well at all, because it's like, what is he saying? He's basically saying that you are not any more special to me than anyone else. That's what he's saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is correct. Spiritually, that's correct, but the
Yeah.
ego doesn't like that at all. So all of these great spiritual teachers who inspire us, they risked their significance to follow their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a consequence on the level of form. It didn't all just go smoothly and swimmingly. It wasn't all just roses, for them, for sure. They had difficulties, they had challenges as well, because that's how life is in the ego's world. The ego doesn't want you to follow your true purpose and risk your significance. It wants you to stay in the known world. You go back to the hero's journey. It wants you to stay here in this, we call it the box of the known world, the normal world, the known world. It wants you to stay there and not cross the threshold and not go, okay, I'm actually, I'm going out of this, and I'm doing something different. That's it's going to be difficult. There are going to be trials. There are going to be maybe failure along the way, but on this journey, I will grow and I will learn things about myself that I never knew, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Most people choose to stay in the normal world, asleep, basically, as Yeshua would say, asleep and dreaming, really not knowing who they are, and too scared to break free of that, too scared to take a risk, to risk their significance, their egos, because the ego thinks it's very important, and its identity is very important to it. But actually, it doesn't mean anything, as we know. It's completely meaningless. But if you live your life in that normal world, it's going to die. That identity is going to collapse anyway. It won't last beyond your death.
So
So what does it mean?
My time on the Isle of Wight is really showing me something, because while I was there, I realised that I like myself a lot more when I'm here, or when I'm away from there. So
Mm,
I know that means I've got stuff to heal, but
mm,
I go there and I feel like, um, yeah, all the ego stuff comes up. I don't fit in. People don't like
yeah,
me. Yeah,
yeah.
whereas, because I guess it's because I have to watch what I say. I can't go on about my beliefs because
Mm,
it triggers them and they don't understand. And whereas
mm,
here, I've got lots of people around me. I can just be myself.
yeah.
I don't have to change.
Mm, mm.
So
Well, it's the old world. That's the normal
yeah,
known world that you've moved
yeah,
beyond. You
yeah,
go back to it, and it feels very limiting and constricting.
yeah.
You've transcended it, and that's fine. You don't have to go back to it.
Mm.
Just because they're your biological family doesn't mean that they're spiritually on the same journey. In fact, normally it doesn't. I'm the same. My family don't get it. They never understood me. They never will, probably. What
Yeah,
I've done doesn't make any sense to them
I
because
feel
because
much
it
more. Sorry,
if
so
you
I feel
frame it
much.
in the ego's framework, then it doesn't make sense, does it?
No, but I feel much more drawn to be with my mum now.
Mm,
Since like dad passed, and luckily I've got a couple of nature loving, well, a few nature loving friends I go out with, and it's abundant. So on that side of my life, that part that I love, the nature side, it's
mm,
unbelievable there. You know,
mm,
I've
mm,
it sounds really crazy unless you know what I'm like, but you know, finding hares is always a real massive treat. There was a field there with like 12, 14 hares in it
mm,
in one
mm,
field. It's like,
mm,
yeah, I haven't cracked it all what it all means, but I could see.
mm,
But then, I was with my nature loving friends. I don't very often get to do any of that with my old friends, although I did on the previous trip. And she was my friend Karen was just amazed watching a
mm,
kingfisher. We were watching a kingfisher
mm,
feeding. Oh, I don't know. It's weird. It
mm,
is definitely between worlds. Normal
mm,
world. Yeah.
mm. All part of your journey, and then it's
Yeah.
just staying true, to being guided. You're guided by the spirit. The ego can't guide you on this hero's journey. You have to listen to the right guide.
Yeah.
The ego just tells you, oh, this is all nonsense. Stay where you are. You've got too much to lose. But there's a part of you that knows that that's never going to work.
No.
You'll never find happiness in that prison that it puts you in. It's a mental and emotional prison. You'll never find it. So the only way is walk the path, walk the journey and go through whatever you need to go through to awaken, including the death of the ego. Death and rebirth is the death of the ego and the rebirth into the spirit. That's where this all leads. And then interesting, the at-one-ment. This is another teaching. It's not coming from Course in Miracles, but uses the at-one-ment word, revelation, both course teachings, revelation and at-one-ment. And the gift is to know thyself. When you know who you are, and you return to society, then you have a great gift to impart. And your purpose is to make this journey yourself, and then find a way to return to society and give other people the gift that you've received by helping them to go on their journey. And that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
In your instance, you work with photos, photography, cameras, but there's a lot of scope in that field to do that, to use the visual imagery for that, and maybe collaborate with other people who are on the same path. So then you become a mentor and a guide on someone else's journey,
Yeah.
and that's the interlocking chain of miracles that Yeshua talks about. That is designed to awaken and free every mind, ultimately, from the prison of the ego. Okay, so yeah, all interesting stuff. Let's go back to here. There's a live session if you want to watch that. How to find your higher purpose. We talked about formulating a blueprint for your values, discovering your special function or higher purpose. So if you want to refresher on any of that, listen to that. And yeah, we talked about. Let's just put this in the context of the shift. I don't know if you watched the shift.
I did. Yeah. A long time
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Um, so the shift is just talking about this shift from the ego's world, from the known world, to the unknown world. The shift is really that crossing the threshold moment where you're saying, okay, I'm going to awaken. So just another version of the hero's journey. and listening to the correct guide. Wayne Dyer talks about it in that movie and says, the shift is profound. From ambition, before such a shift, we concerned with worldly things. Men are concerned with making money and forging a career and having fun and adventure. Women are concerned primarily with family, being a good wife or mother, and doing what everyone else feels like they should be doing. And then, when the shift happens, their values completely change. Forgiveness becomes important, spiritual growth, personal meaning and fulfillment. These kinds of values then enter the lists of people, and they were nowhere before. So absolute, really quite profound transformation. That's what the shift is about.
Yeah.
It's that hero's journey again. So you start seeing, whichever way you look at it, there's this universal journey that we're all on. And you're either going to go with that and say, okay, I'm up for my own hero's journey. I'm going to follow my path, or I'm going to deny it, and I'm going to keep myself in the prison of the known world, the normal world, which will never truly satisfy me. I can never find, the happiness I yearn for in that state, no matter how much security the ego gives me. I could have all the money in the world and, all of that, but I'm not going to feel spiritually fulfilled unless I know myself. Usually, there's actually quite a lot of pain in that. Even if, you only have to look at celebrities, they've got everything on the level of form, and yet often they're miserable, really unhappy people, because they haven't discovered who they are. They're just living this false identity. And then they expect it to. If you're a celebrity, then everyone knows you as the false identity, and you start buying into it. But if you look at, the journeys of people like Jim Carrey and Anthony Hopkins and so on, I posted those videos recently. I don't know if you watched them on the group, but very interesting, because they've gone through that, and they've gone, that's just illusion. It's just another character. I guess being actors, they understand, well, it's just a character. You're playing a role. Who am I beyond the character of this movie star?
Jim Carrey talks about it even in public speeches, doesn't he? He kind of makes it sound like he's joking, but he really means it. Quite uncomfortable to watch, actually, I find it.
Yeah, I watched an interview with him, and the lady's saying, well, how are you doing, Jim, or something? He said, well, I'm not really Jim.
Yeah.
You can say, she's going like, what? Like, are you mad? You can see she's like, I'm not, this is my normal customer. This is my normal interview. Because normally the stars, oh yeah, no, I'm doing really well. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah,
Excited about my
superficial.
latest movie. Da 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 da. And Jim's just like, no, I'm not even Jim.
Yeah, I know. Oh
Classic.
dear.
Because it's just like he's awoken. He's gone, the
Yeah.
character is not who I am. The Jim Carrey character isn't who I really am. I can see beyond that. As has Anthony Hopkins. I don't know if you listen to him, but he's like, no,
I've
that's all
only
it is.
seen a couple of things of his that I thought but nothing that made me think, oh, he's really awake. I've not seen
No,
any of that, so I'd like to see
I
that.
posted a clip recently. It's if you scroll up, you search on Hopkins, you'll
Okay.
find it. I'll see if I can find it and forward it to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I like that.
Just an 8-minute clip, of his life's journey and some of the things he said. And he's going, the world is Maya, the world's an illusion. And he's going at 82, he's going, I know nothing. I realize at 82, I know absolutely nothing.
Oh,
I mean, that's a way. And so he's had all this major success. And instead of going, well, I'm Anthony Hopkins and I'm a very famous movie star, one of the most famous actors of this era, and da 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 da.
yeah.
So I don't know anything. I'm just clueless. And it all just kind of happened. It happened through me, but I take no personal credit for it at all. It just, so these characters, like who've been in the film industry particularly, they can awaken through that journey, because the film industry is like, really, it's a microcosm of the illusion, isn't it? It's like, well, hang on, it's all illusion. the films are just an illusion. They've made up the whole thing. It's a story.
Yeah.
It never happened in reality. And you watch this story that's complete fiction most of the time. Not even it's based on a true story. They've made it up. And then you go and you watch this movie for 2 hours with these characters, and then the movie's over.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
if you're in that industry, you've got to wonder then, well, what is real? How much of it is actually real? And what Jim Carrey said is quite interesting. He said, well, when he did one of his most famous roles was playing a comedian called Andy Kaufman, Man on the Moon. And I think he won an Oscar for that, but it was really like one of his best performances. And he said he so immersed himself in the character of Andy Kaufman that when he finished the movie, he was like, well, I'm not really sure who the Jim Carrey character then is,
Oh,
because I kind of lost touch with that. And, that was when his awakening started. He was like, well, hang on, maybe I'm not Jim Carrey. Maybe this character is also an illusion. Then
he was
he
right.
started. Yeah, absolutely. So all of these people, they're there to inspire us. They are people who've walked the path, they've gone on their own hero's journey, and they're really encouraging you to say, walk the path yourself. Yours is going to look different to mine, but we're all here to awaken to who we really are. However, that looks for you. That's your own hero's journey and higher purpose to work out with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And that's the purpose of your life. That's the only meaning that is in your life. But that meaning is enough to see you through any challenges that life presents you with, because there's this transcendent purpose and meaning that's eternal, rather than just looking for some kind of comfort and satisfaction on the level of form, which is the known world. That's where most people stay their whole lives. Okay, so I think that leads us nicely into our lesson. We've got 45 minutes to do that. So let's dive into today's lesson, shall we? Just give it a quick recording. Okay, so this one is lesson 64 we're on to. You can read that in the original and the alternative link.
Let me not forget my function. I will not forget my true function. I will not forget my true function.
So the second one is more affirmative. It's like, not let me
Yeah.
not, I will not. It's much more of an affirmation.
Yeah.
I will not forget my true function, which is what we've discussed the last hour or so. The
Yeah.
true function is to awaken. True function is to find your own way out of the matrix, and help others to do that as well. Because our true function is at one awakening. And that's it. That's all we're here for. So none of the other functions the ego gives you really matter at all. But he's giving us this lesson. Let me not forget it, because we are apt to forget it, aren't we? We're very prone to
Yeah.
forget true
Yeah.
function in this life, in this world. They're
Amazing
easy
how
to
quickly
forget.
you can do that.
Yeah, yeah. And even if you studied this course for years, you can still forget it sometimes. And you go, okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole, and the ego's coming up, and I'm getting emotional about whatever. And then, hang on, I've just forgotten my true function again, which is simply to stay present to who I really am. That's my true function, to stay connected to my source, my true self, no matter what seems to happen. That's my function in this world. The way we do that is forgiveness. Forgiveness is our function, because only by forgiving or letting go can we stay connected. Otherwise, we're gonna allow the ego to come in, and it's gonna disconnect us, and it's gonna cover over that true self. So really, boil it down to first principles, and what you can actually do, because the very practical course, as Yeshua says, your function is forgiveness. Forgiveness is, the previous lesson was, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. And fulfilling my function brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. So he's trying to teach us and get us to believe that this is all I'm here for, right? One simple function. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. You just got to do one thing, and that's to forgive or to let go systematically, progressively, whenever you need to. That's your function in life. And everything else will come from that. Okay, so if you read read number 1, just read it in the alternative. There's not much to translate there. Just
So
God and
read
his
it
son.
in the alternative now.
Yeah. Just read number 3 and 4 in the original, but the first couple are fine.
Okay. It is the temptation to abandon God and his son by taking on a
No. I mean,
oh,
read it from the top.
oh
Read it
what
from the
from
top in the alternative, yeah. From today's
oh
idea. Yeah.
today's idea is merely another way of saying, let me not wander into temptation. The purpose of the world I see is to obscure my function of letting go and provide me with a justification for forgetting it. It is a temptation to abandon pure, formless awareness of perfect love and its extension by taking on a physical appearance. This is what my body's eyes look upon.
So the only translation there is God becomes pure formless awareness of perfect love, and his son becomes its extension. So temptation to abandon that awareness by taking on a physical appearance. I mean, what better way of abandoning pure formless awareness than by becoming physical? And then focusing your awareness on the physical rather than on what's formless, which is why we've invented the world we have.
Yeah.
Why we've taken on a physical appearance, and that appearance seems to convince us that we really must be separate, because apparently we're wandering around in a separate body, and as is everyone else.
Yeah.
And what he's saying here is quite profound. It's just temptation. To believe that story is the temptation of the ego, and we are born into that temptation. So that's where the idea of original sin comes from. Now we are born into that temptation that comes from the original sin, that we think we've destroyed God. We think we're separate from God, and now we've created our own identity. That's the original sin. So it's all bound up in this temptation of the physical appearance of the body in this world. So what he's saying. So it goes very deep. I mean, these lessons are simple, but they're very, very deep and profound.
Yeah.
Everything here is just a temptation to forget my true awareness. The world is just made as a temptation and as a distraction from that awareness, so that you would never find that awareness. How does the ego convince you that it's real? Well, it's going to cover over your true awareness with this the physical appearance of a body in the world, and it's going to try and get you to focus your attention on that, and never to become aware of the true awareness that lies beyond that. And it's done a pretty good job of that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, it's like, well, if you were going to cover over that awareness and deny it, and now believe in another awareness, that you're actually separate consciousness or awareness, you would create a world like this, wouldn't you? To support that
Yeah,
idea.
I still find it hard. Yeah, well, you know I do, because I've told you even not that long
Mm.
ago, I still find it hard, parts of
Mm.
it, to come out of that belief.
Just get your mind around the enormity of that. It's like, okay, but
Yeah.
that's actually what's going on here. Like, the world didn't just happen. It's a miscreation of a mind that is deluded about its identity, that doesn't know what it is. And so then it takes on a physical appearance as a way of denying its true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is beyond the physical. But it's the only explanation. Why else would we? Why else would this exist? You know, what other reason is there that you can come up with? Is there any good reason for this to exist? And many philosophers have tried to answer that question within the ego's construct, and they've all failed. You'll never find a good reason because there is no good reason. That's the point. It's just saying there's no good reason for the world to exist. Therefore, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I
So,
just oh dear. Yeah, I see it as a learn that it's a place to learn all this stuff, isn't it? But yeah, I can't quite see it as the
well, it's a place where you can now, if you're in prison, right? The prison is a delusion, but you think you're there because you put yourself there through your own imprisoning thoughts. Then the only purpose of this experience would be to get out of jail, free yourself from the prison,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what the awakening journey is all about, is to escape from the prison of your ego's construct of the world and sickness, pain, suffering, misery, and death. So ultimately, you don't have to ever do that. You don't have to come here again ever because there's no reason for this to exist. It's a product of a delusion, of a false self that doesn't even exist. So while you're here, yes, you're here to learn your lessons, and you don't want to spiritually bypass those lessons. Go, well, I'll just shortcut it all and commit suicide because there's no point being here. That's not the way either, because you're not going to learn your lessons then.
No.
So you kind of got to go, okay, I'm in this for the rest of my life, however long that lasts, and there are lessons to be learned, and that's what my purpose is. That's my only function, is to learn those lessons, which means I've got to let go of the ego's thought system. Doing that progressively and systematically means you're on a spiritual path of awakening, and that's your only function. So out of this, the metaphysics of this, okay, none of this really means anything, comes your true function, your true purpose in the world. Now, a lot of people deny this. They go, well, that's all a bit depressing because I want to make the world mean something. I want some purpose in the world. And so they will seek and find that. Well, my purpose lies in whatever it is, in making money and pursuing a career, in having a family, in special relationships, in substances, in whatever it is. You have to find something, don't you,
Yeah.
to give you a purpose. But none of those purposes are real, so they won't sustain you. All of that can and eventually will just be completely undone.
Yeah.
Those
Mm.
short-term limited purposes will not sustain you for your entire life. They come and they go. And when you finally die, if you lived your life according to those purposes, there will be nothing transcendent about your life at all. There will be no legacy that you've left, nothing higher that you taught anyone, because you just believed in the world of form. And then when you die, that's all over. So what was the point of it? I mean, Eckhart Tolle does this in one of his teachings. He's like, have a look at some of these old movies, they made when the film first started in the 1920s and stuff. And you look at all these people, like let's say they took it of New York or London or something like that. And you see all these people running around, scurrying around, busy doing this thing. None of them exist anymore. They're all dead. And none of those purposes that they were running for mean anything, do they? Wherever they
No.
were going, that's just all long gone. There was no real meaning or purpose to any of it. They were just like ants running around. The only purpose of any of their lives, in hindsight, was for them to awaken from that dream. Maybe some of them did. To see beyond, the delusion that they were human and that all these purposes meant anything. Because, in time, they don't mean anything. Nothing, give it anything 50, 100 years, it didn't mean anything. It's all gone. But what stood the test of time is the truth. When people stand for the truth, like people like Yeshua and the Buddha, some of the other teachers that I've mentioned, then you see that there's a legacy, there's something very significant there, and that lasts. That's the only thing that stands the test of time. Why do we still talk about them 2,500 years later? Because they stood for something deeper, something truly meaningful that is permanent and eternal. And that's what we're all seeking. Everyone wants that.
Yeah.
This is where you have the courage to go for it and say, okay, I'm going to go for that and nothing else. Because I can't go for that and also go for a life lived on a superficial level. They contradict each other. You can't reconcile the false with the true. Okay, which is what he's saying to us in number 2. So if you want to read that, nothing the body's eyes
Could you just make it a little bit bigger for me, please? I'm struggling to see now.
Yeah.
Interestingly.
Yeah. It's all about vision.
Yeah.
Let's zoom this in. We'll make it 150. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Hmm.
Nothing
Okay.
the body's eyes seem to see can be anything but a form of temptation, since this was the purpose of the body itself. Yet we have learned that the Holy Spirit has another use for all the illusions you have made, and therefore he sees another purpose in them. To the Holy
Read that in the alternative.
From the beginning, everything.
Just from yet I've learned.
Yet I have learned that the remembrance of perfect love has another use for all the illusions I have made, and therefore it sees another purpose to them. To the remembrance of perfect love, the world is a place where I learn to let go of what I think of as my sins. In this perception, the physical appearance of temptation becomes a spiritual recognition of freedom.
Okay. Remembrance of perfect love is the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit's only interpretation of the world is a place where I learn to let go of what I think of as my sins. So these are the things that we think, we've made a mistake, we're going to be punished. Sin really means that it's an error, it's a mistake that you have made permanent in your perception, that it's also punishable. It's serious, so you deserve punishment, permanent, punishable, and therefore real in your perception. That's what sin means.
Yeah.
And of course, what that entrenches in your mind is the idea that you're a separate self, that you've really done this, and now you deserve to be punished, and you're going to suffer. And this is fear then is justified because this punishment is real, and that really reinforces the separate self concept that you believe in. Can you see that? And that's all it's designed to do.
Yeah.
Sin, guilt, fear, anger, hatred, attack, all the negative thoughts and emotions, all they do is they reinforce the idea that there is really someone there. There's a separate self there who can now experience all this stuff and who's really being apparently threatened or hurt or unfairly treated or whatever the story is. It makes the separate self real. You're starting to get, and that's all the ego's done. The whole world is just designed to do that. That's why it's Maya. It's the world of illusion, designed to cover over the truth of your pure formless awareness of perfect love. So that you forget that truth, and instead you'll believe in the reality of the separate self that the ego has invented to replace it. Which is why he says, remember, so perfect love. The world is just a place where I learn to let go of all of this. What I think of as my sins. And in this perception, the physical appearance of temptation. So I might be tempted to forget my function, but actually I can remind myself, I can still recognize that actually this is all designed for my awakening. This is designed to help me free my mind. That's the correct interpretation of anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Simple, but it's very profound. This goes to the deepest meaning and purpose of our lives. What is our true meaning and purpose? Answers that question in one lesson. Okay, and then
Mhm.
move on to number 3. Read this in the original and the alternative because there's a bit to translate.
Okay. To review our last few lessons, your function here is to be the light of the world, a function given you by God. What, read it all the way through?
No, just original one sentence and then
Okay.
alternative sentence. Yeah.
So, to review the last few lessons, my function here is to be the true awareness of the world, a function given to me by pure, formless awareness of perfect love.
So
It is,
life becomes true awareness. Yeah.
yeah.
So I always found that light a bit difficult because like, well, what is that? Is they talking about a physical light? We tend to, want to see some light, and I don't really see colors or lights too well. So I'm like, well, am I just not getting this? But when you understand it's just an awareness, well, anyone can be aware, whether you see any light or not, is it actually irrelevant. It's the true awareness in your mind that you can have at any moment. That is the light of the world. True
Is it not,
perception of the world, the light of the world.
isn't it about when we're in love, when we know our like, our power and we feel in love, isn't it about sharing that other people can see that? Is it
Yeah,
not that? That's what it feels
that's
like.
yeah. The light of the world is your true awareness. And if you stay in that awareness and you're inspired by that awareness, then other people will see this awareness coming through in your words, your actions, your behavior,
Mm,
uh, so on. So you inspire then people by example, which is really the only way to do it. You can't
yeah.
tell them how they should live their life. You just live your life in and from this awareness, and inevitably, some people will be inspired by that. Other people might feel very challenged by that,
Yeah.
because they don't want to transcend their own ego. So then you become a threat to the ego's thought system.
Hmm.
So exactly what happened with Yeshua. You just live fully in this awareness, but then people turn and went, no, actually, this is incorrect. We want to stay in the old awareness. This is a threat to our egos and to this whole system of control based on that false awareness. Okay, so number 2 then. It's only the arrogance of the ego that leads you to question this.
It is only the arrogance of the ego that leads you to question this, and only the fear of the ego that induces you to regard yourself as unworthy of the task assigned to you by God Himself. It is only the arrogance of the belief in separation that leads me to question this, and only the fear of this belief that induces me to regard myself as unworthy of the task assigned to me by pure formless awareness of perfect love itself. Mm. The arrogance of the belief.
Mm. So the ego, in the belief in separation, will questions and go, no, 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 this isn't the case at all. Your purpose lies in the world. Don't forget, usually it'll focus on some form identity. You're a father, mother, brother, sister. You're an employee. You've got a job to do. You've got responsibilities. You've got and on it goes. And then we might also regard ourselves as unworthy. Well, who am I? Just like some. I'm not a spiritual master. Like I'm not on the level of Jesus or Buddha. Like I can't awaken. You're kidding. Ego says, you're kidding me. Don't get delusions of grandeur here.
Mm.
You're just this little old self with all of your stuff, and kind of the best you can do is just try and get by. Just manage your life and your problems with the ego as the guide. Just kind of get through this all this namby-pamby, airy-fairy, spiritual woo-woo stuff is is never going to work. You've all heard that voice, haven't you? He goes, just
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't want you to awaken. So it's going to try everything possible to deny that this is true. It's going to try to undermine it at every turn, because it doesn't want you to awaken. This is why it's difficult in this world, because we face so much resistance. It's really our own resistance that then gets projected out, and then that resistance comes in the form of other people and circumstances that seem to make the awakening difficult, don't they? So, this is why it's difficult to escape, because we're so in the delusion of a separate self and its belief in separation that we're so far down the rabbit hole that now to climb back up out of it is quite a mission.
Yeah.
But there's no other way. If you really want freedom and happiness and peace, there's no other way. You're never going to find it within the construct of the ego. And so surely, at this age, we should have realized that once you start getting to 50, you should start waking up to that. Like, okay, it's never going to work, because I've had 50 years and it hasn't worked so far. So
Yeah.
now in the latter part of my life, it hasn't worked. So maybe I got it wrong. This is the honesty needs to come. Maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe that actually wasn't my purpose at all. That's when the awakening journey starts. Actually, none of it was actually true, and I was just deluded. And thank God, at least I've woken up to that fact, because now I can really start the journey.
Yeah.
And the sooner we do that, the better. Sometimes mostly it takes people till midlife, but sometimes it happens a bit earlier, depending on the individual circumstances. I was quite fortunate in that it kind of happened in my late 20s.
Yeah.
So
Lucky.
people are really like screwing themselves into the world. I was like, what is this? Like, my entire world collapsed because my ego's dream was just in tatters. It wasn't going to happen. I was like, I've dedicated my life to pursuing this for the last 15 years, and I got nowhere. It didn't happen. Then you've got a question. You're either going to go, well, I'm depressed for the rest of my life, or you've got to go,
What
well,
next?
what does that actually mean? What does that mean? So that's what I considered. Like, well, maybe actually I had it all wrong. Maybe that whole thought system that I was in was fundamentally wrong and incorrect. Maybe I was missing something. I considered that, which I think is easier to do at a younger age. As you get older, it becomes harder because your mind gets entrenched in the same patterns, and then then your whole life's at stake. Imagine you're 60 and well, actually it's all been illusion and it's all been pointless, and like, well, what if my whole life is wrong? To quote Leo Tolstoy, that was quoted in The Shift, actually, remember? When I tells the story of Leo Tolstoy, and there's a short story where this judge who's had a miserable life and he's finally dying, and his wife's at his deathbed, and he goes, "What if my whole life's been wrong?" And then he dies.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Well, like but that at least he realized that. But it took him, to his dying moment to realize that. Like, why not realize it sooner? What if my whole life's wrong? If you wake up to that at 30 or 40, then you still got the rest of your life to kind of live your life differently.
Yeah.
Anyway, whenever it happens, for you, that's when it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
It was actually all necessary. It wasn't wasted. You go, oh, well, I just wasted half my life. No, that was necessary for you to awaken. You needed to go through all those experiences in order to awaken.
All
So
that
it wasn't
stuff had to
wasted. It was
happen. Yeah.
all that stuff needed to happen for me to have come to this point. So, none of it's wasted. All right, carry on.
Okay. This is back on. Right. Where am
World
I?
salvation, I think.
The world's salvation awaits your forgiveness, because though it because through it does the Son of God escape from all illusions and thus from all temptation. The Son of God is you. The world's awakening awaits my letting go, because through it, the extension of perfect love escapes from all illusions and so from all temptation. I am the extension of perfect love.
Okay, so what's he saying on those two?
It's awakening waits. I read it as when we realise we're not separate. I I never get my words when I do this. Oh, yeah.
Okay, take your time.
I can't find my words. I know I've got it in my head, but I can't get the words out.
Hmm.
And I've probably not quite got it. Mm.
Shall I help you?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Awakening.
Yeah,
Wait.
he's really just saying that our function is to let go, because through the letting go we escape from all illusions
Mm.
and from all this temptation of being in the body in physical form. And that's our journey, but that's also the journey of everyone. That's the awakening of
Yeah,
humanity.
that's what I couldn't put together. It's that because in my head, in my head, I kept thinking, and that's the benefit for everyone. But I knew that wasn't quite
Hmm.
right. I just knew it was the joint effect, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
because we're all
Our,
connected.
our our journey is part of then the whole, the awakening
Yeah.
of humanity. And if you look at some of these great teachers that we've quoted, Jesus and the Buddha and Jim Carrey and Anthony Hopkins and Viktor Frankl and Friedrich Nietzsche and on it goes. They inspire us. These are people who inspire other people to awaken. Without them, how would the awakening play out? You would have imagine a world without those examples. How would that look? It would be a world devoid of spiritual inspiration. So your journey is to be that for other people. You be the light of the world. You be the one who is the shining example of someone who is awakening for
As other people have been for me. Yeah.
exactly. And
And
you
I've
pay
learned
it
the
forward.
things I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go back to this, where we go back to this, your favorite, that which came to me as seed goes on as blossom. That which came to
Mm.
me, oh wait, it's number 56, I think. Choose to live. So that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom. That which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't think of it like that when I read it before, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
is
This
that
is the
learn.
perennial
Yeah.
philosophy. Like, okay, the seed is the spirit that comes to me as a seed. I mean, and this is Yeshua's parable of the sower. It grows in me. I nurture it. I water it. It grows in me and it bears fruit. She's referring to the parable of the sower really here, actually, probably. Whether she did that consciously or not. But so then it goes to the next as blossom. Because you've nurtured it and grown it, someone can then enjoy the fruits of what you've done. And
Yeah.
that blossom might look like, well, there's a paint, there's a photo in your case, a beautiful photo that just really inspires someone. Now, which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit.
Mm.
So the fruits of my life maybe, can help someone else. Maybe you end up inspiring other people to do what you've done,
Yeah.
photographers, visual artists, and so on.
Mm.
Who knows? But it's the nurturing of the seed of this truth in you. And then when you start to grow that and nurture it and develop it and extend it out, that becomes your higher purpose. That's your own awakening, but it's contributing to the awakening of humanity. And if you find that purpose, then you have all the meaning and all the inspiration that you need in this world, because there's nothing else that's going to inspire you like that will do.
Lots of people ask me how I've gone from being like a hobby photographer to then getting out there and selling and then having my stall. And lots of people have asked me about the pop-up shop
Hmm.
and they all want to do it.
Yeah. So maybe you could help them, you see?
I really, yeah, I keep thinking I'd love to create one of those pop-up shops, but I just don't see myself as the leader. That's what's putting me off. So I'd like to be in this shop and bring in, say, like seven, 5 or 7 other people and share the shop and all be
Hmm.
people selling their work, their own
Hmm.
work
Hmm.
that they've created. It keeps
Hmm.
coming to me. It's like that's
Hmm.
what keeps being shown to me, and I'm wanting someone else to do it, and be part of it. But it keeps coming
Hmm.
to me. It's like maybe I have
Hmm.
to be the one that does it, which fills me with
Exactly.
dread.
Who's going to do it? But you see, there's the challenge
Yeah,
to your ego's limitations. So
yeah,
this is challenging you then to say, okay, well, I'm going to live this. I'm not just going to, come and do a session and then it's like, okay, well, that's all great, but nothing changes. It's like, no, I'm going to live this teaching
yeah,
and I'm going to live it in this way. You're getting the call. Sounds like it's inspired. Okay, well, will I step up and do it? Will I actually start taking the actions? And will I be the leader? Because I'm not really the leader. You see, I think that there's the personal self saying I'm not worthy
yeah,
anymore. What did you say here?
yeah,
The ego's arrogance says I'm not worthy.
yeah. Mm,
Was it the first one? Oh, so what my body's eyes. Where was that bit about the ego's arrogance? Learned it.
mm,
Arrogance or the belief in separation. It leads me to
yeah.
questions. Yeah. Only the fear of this belief that it enables me to regard myself as unworthy of the task assigned to me by pure formless awareness of perfect love itself.
I've been talking about it for a week, and I've kept thinking, can't,
Yeah.
I'm not organized enough to do that.
Yeah.
Mm,
But that's your own, lack of listening to the inner guidance and
yeah,
your true self. Say,
yeah,
oh no, I can't do that because you're not worthy, because it's got to be someone else,
yeah,
because, and there's all kinds of reasons and excuses.
yeah,
But actually it's all just the ego's defense, because if you start walking that path, then you start being an agent of the spirit in the world and of this awakening. You awaken yourself, you awaken others, abundance starts flowing, and the ego doesn't want that, it wants to keep you in a little, very limited prison. And you could be an inspiration to many people. Okay, well, if I can do it, so can you. No, I'm nothing special. I've just followed my guidance and I've had the courage to, follow this path and this journey.
yeah.
And that's then actually living this teaching. The
Hmm.
words are one thing, but to actually put it into practice, you've got to actually step up and go, okay, so you've had the idea for a week, do something about it.
Yeah. Well, a
Do
lot
something
longer than
about
a
it.
week since December,
Yeah.
but it's
Okay.
been coming and
So
going, all the stuff that's happened in
yeah,
between, having
yeah.
that shop space for a week. It's like
Yeah.
that really brought it back to brought the
Yeah.
desire back and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, what a great
dream.
vision, And then there's a collective and it's joining and it's uniting in a common purpose, and the idea is to, sell something that's inspiring. You'll attract people who have like mind, who, join the kind of vibe. You create the platform for them, and that, they can come in, and then you're helping them on their journeys, and you're helping people who come in to get some of that. They buy the pictures because of the inspiration that it gives them.
Yeah,
And if there's a whole collective there, then it becomes a collective hub of spiritual awareness that's now being extended out more powerfully because there's a group of you and you
yeah.
support each other.
Hmm.
And who knows where that might go? You don't know. One might lead to more. You might have centers like this around the country. You might have an online website where you help people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't know, but take the first step. And that
Yeah.
might look as simple as, okay, well, I'll just make a phone call and see if there's a space available, something
I've
for,
already got a plan. I've already got the plans. I'm back in
yeah.
Felixstowe in May, and that's
Mm,
where I went to my first indoor market, which is like a
mm,
combination of there's people
mm,
who go there every day and run it, and then they bring other people in. And the lady who runs it, said to me, if you ever want to know any information, just ask. And of course,
mm,
I haven't been in that position for these last few months. So, but now I'm like, oh, I'd like a place by December
mm,
to sell from in December.
mm. Just ask.
Yeah, even if it's temporary to start with, but I want a whole six
Mm,
weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
mm,
So
mm,
November to January or something,
mm.
ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that I'm putting it out there. Yeah, I am
Mm.
asking for help.
And then follow the guidance. You can't
Yeah,
ask for help and then not do what you guided to do. It's like,
yeah.
okay, I must do what I feel called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's then allowing the Holy Spirit, remember it's a perfect love, to guide you and actually doing it. It's not sitting and just twiddling your thumbs. You've actually got to walk the path. There's a difference. Morpheus said to Neo in the Matrix, he said, you'll understand that there's a difference between knowing the path and
Yeah,
walking the
yeah,
path.
yeah. It's true.
So knowing is one thing. Yes, we can study the theory, we can do these lessons, it all sounds great. Come off the call, you feel quite inspired. Okay. But if you don't do anything about it, then you just know the path, but you're not actually walking the path.
Yeah, yeah. I see
But
that.
the hero's journey means you must walk the path, which means you have to take action,
Yeah,
inspired action. You follow the guidance. That's what it means to be in flow. You follow the guidance of your own awakening, and that helps everyone's awakening. And you have no idea where that's all going to go. You don't know how it's going to play out. Just
no,
in the same way as someone like Bill Wilson, when he followed the guidance and he went to the hospital that day, he didn't know that would become Alcoholics Anonymous, a global organization that would help millions of people overcome alcoholism, did he? He had no idea.
no,
He just
not at
he
all.
just did what felt right in the moment. And then it unfolded one moment at a time to, yet nearly a century later, produce an organization that is, very helpful to many, many, many people. So in the same way, from the small seed, it all starts with a seed, doesn't it? You plant the seed and you nurture that and you grow it by tending it. Okay, so the Holy Spirit says, take the next action, phone that lady, do this. And then the
Mm.
next day you get up and you do something else. And so it unfolds.
Yeah, I'm going to go into town as well and look at all the empty shops, see
Mm,
who they're like who they're being advertised with, and see if
mm,
any of them would consider a temporary tenant if they don't have a buyer or something. So
mm. Yeah. And
yeah,
then you follow the guidance and you'll find, if you're
the right
following
thing will
guidance
come
from the
along.
Spirit, it'll come along. Yeah. The right
Yeah,
place, the right opportunity comes along, and it's all, in the synchronistic flowing way. because you're following guidance, and the Holy Spirit is with you and is trying to help you to manifest the Spirit in the world. It needs teachers of this in the world. So you say, okay, I'm up for it. I'll sign up, because okay, great, we've got a channel here. Let's use the channel. Let's help. And it then channels what's needed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
just take some action on it in the next 24 hours, even if it's one simple thing.
Yeah. I'm going to contact the Felix Day lady.
Okay. So let's crack on, and then we'll do a meditation. So read
It's
number
nearly
4.
4:30, John. I didn't know if you actually have to be somewhere specific,
It is,
because you
yeah.
said you.
I've got to be somewhere at 5, so I've got maybe
Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can wrap it up with a, say, 15-minute med. Just read
Yeah.
number 4 and 5, and then we'll go into a med.
Okay. Where am I? Only by
Only by
fulfilling.
Just read that,
Oh,
yeah.
only by fulfilling the function given to me by pure formless awareness of perfect love will I be happy. That is because my function is to be happy by using the means of which happiness becomes inevitable. Ooh, I lost that. This is because my function is to be happy by using the means by which happiness becomes inevitable. So whatever makes me happiest.
Yeah. And the means for happiness is follow guidance.
Yeah.
What's going to make you happy is the Holy Spirit's guidance. It means through which happiness becomes inevitable. And he's saying there's no other way.
Mm.
Can you find another
Therefore,
way to be happy? People are seeking happiness everywhere, but this is the only way, to let go and find the flow of the Holy Spirit guiding you in your higher purpose. That's the way of happiness. That's what's going to make you truly happy.
yeah.
Yeah. Therefore, every time.
Therefore, every time I choose whether or not to fulfill my function, I'm really choosing whether or not to be happy. That's so true. I could see that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Moments of decision. What am I choosing? Oh, I won't fulfill my function. I won't follow the nudges. What am I saying? I don't want to be happy. I want to stay in, whatever state I'm currently in, or worse,
Yeah.
which is not what you really want.
Mm-mm.
So there's always the challenge is well, will you listen to the spirit? But then there's the fear that you've got to overcome
Yeah.
to do. There's always a resistance, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Whether
but
you let the fear block it.
yeah, or not. There's always fear. And people who live in fear, they will never follow the Holy Spirit's guidance, because there's always going to be fear involved that you got to overcome to follow that guidance. Because it's going to ask you to go out of the norm, out of your comfort zone. And anyone who's been, at all successful in life has gone out of that comfort zone. They've confronted their fear to often quite a great extent, and they've transcended it. And if they don't, then they'll never be successful. I remember reading I'll just briefly tell a story because it's pertinent. Do you know the story of the Bronte sisters?
Not
Emily,
really.
Anne, and Charlotte Bronte.
Not really, no.
So they were authors, and they wrote
Yeah.
some of
I know
the
who, yeah, I
classic
know their stories and stuff.
Little Women. Was it no? What did Charlotte write? But Wuthering Heights, Emily Bronte, was a classic. And she
Amazing.
wrote poetry, and but they had a brother who was equally gifted, called Branwell.
Oh,
But you never heard of Branwell Bronte, because
no.
Branwell never became his sphere. He was due to go down to see an agent in London, and he bottled it. He got too scared, and he had a predisposition towards alcohol, so he ended up just getting sozzled in the pub, and he never went. And so he never took the step. If he'd gone, no, you know what? I'm going to face my fear. I'm not going to go get sodded in the pub. I'm going to get on that train and go to London. I'm going to meet this guy. His story could have been different. You might have actually heard of him as some, author of note.
Yeah.
But he never had the courage, and he just went back into the ego. Oh, well, I'll just hide in the pub and get drunk, and then eventually died of alcoholism. He could never. But that decision, that moment, if he'd chosen differently and he got on the train, he'd gone to London, his whole life might have been different because he would have confronted his fear and he would have overcome that. And he would have gone, actually, this is possible. And doors start to open when you do that. Instead, he went to the pub because he was scared and got drunk. And then that took him down the path of alcoholism and eventually died.
And close all the
And
doors.
closed all the doors, And then his sister died because she went to his funeral and she got pneumonia or
Oh
TB.
no.
At the funeral, Emily, and so her life was, it was like a story of death and disaster, just because he didn't follow the guidance, and he wasn't willing to overcome his own fear. So that's a lesson. Like, follow the guidance. If you get a chance, he had a chance, and was like, okay, I'm going to, and he just didn't have the courage to take it. Okay, so then read number 5, and then we'll go into meditation to practice this.
I will remember this today. I will remind myself of it in the morning, again at night, and throughout the day as well. I prepare myself in advance for all the decisions I will make today by remembering that they are all really very simple. Each one will lead to happiness or unhappiness. Can such a simple decision really be difficult to make? I should not let the form of the decision deceive me. Oh God, it's so true, isn't it? So simple. Complexity of form does not imply complexity of content. It's impossible that any decision on earth can have a content different from just the one simple choice. This is the only choice the remembrance of perfect love perceives, therefore it is the only choice there is.
So he states it beautifully succinctly. It's like, okay, it's a choice. In every moment, you can choose happiness or unhappiness. If you choose to follow the guidance, the Holy Spirit, you're choosing happiness. If you choose to deny it and block it, you're choosing to be unhappy. And that's the case in every situation. No matter how complex it seems to be, actually, it's really simple.
Yeah, even how we react to something. Choose to, because I saw myself choose to be unhappy about something in that week in the shop. I guess when I changed it around, that's probably when I started getting all the customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when abundance flows, and it's all connected. When you're happy and you're in flow, then life flows for you. And you're unhappy and you block it, then you're out of flow, and your circumstances reflect that.
Yeah.
You get to see that, if you're on a path like you're on with no fixed income, you get to see that directly. It's like, okay, yeah, I can see that there's a connection between how I'm doing and my mental state.
Yes. I really literally can measure it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
So
my
that's
heart
great.
and my head's feeling. Yeah.
That's the barometer. The external then is just the mirror in which you can see your consciousness, your state of mind. So, okay, so how am I doing? Okay, well, I'm struggling on the physical level. So what does that tell me? It's a canary in the gold mine, the warning sign. What does that tell me?
Yeah.
I'm not in
Not
alignment.
aligned.
I'm
Yeah.
not aligned. Okay, so I got to
Yeah.
get aligned.
Yeah.
The priority is get aligned.
Mm.
Do the spiritual work, let it go, get back into alignment with spirit, find your flow, and then things, the block is removed internally, that reflects externally, often immediately or very, very soon after, and then
Yeah.
go forward.
Yeah.
And that's the hero's journey. That's what you're asked to do over and over and over again as the blocks show up. And that's all he's saying. This is the only choice you really have.
Yeah.
So then just read this, and then we'll go into a meditation on these words.
Therefore, I practice with these thoughts today. I will not forget my function. I will not try to substitute mine for perfect loves. I choose to let go and be happy. At least once I will devote 10 or 15 minutes today to
Fine,
reflecting.
I'll guide you through a meditation on this.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll just finish off with 15 minutes there. Okay?
Yeah, lovely.
So just prep yourself for that while I get ready. Okay, so just making yourself comfortable, sitting your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. Up your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Connect with your breath, scan your mind, and just notice any thoughts going on, any emotions, particularly anything that feels unhappy, contracted, limited, constricted. Just notice any of that. Breathe into it. Imagine you breathing in light. That helps you if you visualize light, golden or white light, flowing into any areas of darkness, of tension. Maybe that's in your stomach, your chest, your neck and shoulders, your head, your third eye, whatever. Just breathing in the light, you're inviting it in, and remind yourself of the light by saying, I will not forget my function. I will not try to substitute mine for perfect loves. I choose to let go of all of this and be happy instead. Exhale, and the truth of that, use the exhale to blow out any of these dark, negative thoughts. These are thoughts of doubt and fear. Any angry thoughts, irritation, anything that feels unpleasant, just blowing it away. Just let it all go. The breeze of your breath. Imagine you blowing it away like a dark cloud or a black smoke, leaving you. Just going, gone. All the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And you rest in this still, calm, quiet, peaceful state of awareness. Just resting in God. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still, and surrender into that stillness, in which your function can reveal itself to you. The only function is to be happy. You can experience happiness by letting go of anything that blocks your happiness. It's very simple, really. Just remove the blocks to the awareness of happiness, which is also the awareness of love and peace and joy, and everything is in there. Remove those blocks, and what's left must be the truth. Must be the awareness in which you are naturally happy. So no effort required to be happy. In your natural state, happiness simply is there. So give yourself a chance to just experience this deep state of natural happiness and let go of all of your blocks. At least for now, you just rest in this very peaceful, calm state of awareness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. You just allow your breath just to flow naturally in and out through your nose. You just observe the breath and observe your inner state. Sinking inwards to the state of happiness. Any related thoughts come to help you. Related to your purpose and function in the world. Any thoughts in alignment with this lesson come, then allow them. If they're distracting thoughts, then just observe them and let them go. Blow them away. The breeze of your breath like dark clouds or black smoke. Just leaving you going, going, gone. To nothingness that they are. And rest in the awareness of the blue sky beyond the clouds. It's just this pristine blue sky. It's no clouds. Just the brilliant sunshine of your source. Your true awareness shining through that empty, open, clear, spacious awareness. So just allow that to happen for the next couple of minutes of deep silence and be happy in that state. The next 2 minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back now. In this hopefully very deep, happy, connected state. An awareness of your body and the breath, senses in the world, and on count to 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises in the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils, and you pause at the top of the inhale, and you smile, scan your mind, and notice any thoughts, emotions, related body sensations going on. And if anything is negative or limiting or contracted or constricted, remind yourself that I will not forget my function. I will not try to substitute mine for perfect love's. I choose to let go and be happy. When you exhale, and just have a sense of blowing all of that darkness away like a dark cloud or black smoke leaving you. It's going, gone. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, drop your energy down from the crown all the way down, front channel into your lower stomach and your groin. Resting here on the count of 2 for a few moments, just noticing the weight of your body pressing down into the chair and your feet touching the ground, noticing what you're touching and feeling with your hands. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. As you breathe in again, notice what you're smelling, notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. You just notice all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state, that you are just aware, coming from your true awareness, no judgment of anything, just pure formless awareness streaming through and coming into your awareness as non-judgmental perception. So you're going to stay rooted in this non-judgmental perception, in pure awareness for the rest of the afternoon and evening. On into tomorrow, use today's lesson to top you up. So I will not forget my function, which is to be happy. And the means of happiness is to let go. So my function then becomes forgiveness or letting go of anything that blocks my awareness of happiness. So it is. So it is said, so it is done. Now on the count of 3, open your eyes. So just look around for a minute to ground yourself back into this world, noticing whatever's going on, thoughts, emotions. Notice whatever's going on in the world in this very calm, clear way. Look at any object for a few seconds, notice it. Look at another object, notice that the awareness underlying the perception is exactly the same. No matter what you look at, you can close your eyes briefly, notice that awareness is still there. You open your eyes again, it's still there. So you're teaching your mind that this awareness is fundamental, it's always there, it underlies every sense perception, and you can always rely on it. And it's only your function, your only function is to stay in this awareness, no matter what seems to be happening in the world. So your function becomes to let go of anything that disturbs this awareness and connect with this awareness again. And so that's what I wish for you, that you stay in that awareness, stay in that function, and until I see you again. Running a session tomorrow evening if you want to join us. So you're welcome to do that, Lynn. Otherwise, later in the week, just watch what's happening on the group. I'd advise you, and yeah, do take some action in the next 24 hours on that project of yours.
Yeah, well, I'm going to a new pet sit tomorrow, so it will depend how I get settled in, if I can join or not. But yes, I'll definitely be contacting the lady I need to contact first.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So I might see you tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
We'll start at probably 7:30. She just gives me a chance to have dinner and stuff.
Okay.
So join us then if you can. Otherwise,
Yeah.
later in the week. Yeah, as I said, you've got quite a lot of credit, so you can join twice a week for the next couple of weeks if you want.
Thanks a lot. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, John.
Joining.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.
And to you.
Bye for now. So thanks to Lynn for joining. That's a wrap for the session. If you enjoyed the session, why not join us on the journey? Go to lifebull.com, find out more about this program, how you can join a live session. And you can also subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content and just want to be notified whenever I go live, which is typically 6 days a week. So thanks for watching and listening. Hope to catch you on the inside soon. And namaste, which means the true self and function, and me acknowledges and honors that same true self and function, which is to be happy in you. Wishing you much love, peace, and happiness. Bye for now.